Look at my horse! Isn't he nice? I feed him with popular opinions. And his name? Oh, it's Hi-Ho. The joke here is that I'ma get up on my high horse for this one. This is video of a video series ranking and reviewing every season of Avatar. There's a playlist that you should check out for the rest of the videos, as some jokes might carry over from previous videos. And of course, this is a good time to remind you to subscribe. So do it. This is both critique and my opinion, but I urge you to comment if you want to. I read everything. Okay, let me explain. I know that in theory I'm saying that this season is worse than season 2 of Korra, but this is entirely because I don't consider anything from here onwards bad. Maybe it did disappoint, maybe it did some less than stellar decisions, but most of all, they are enjoyable and I like them. Just less so than others. And, well, to be honest, this season doesn't have any huge problems. It simply disappoints me in some aspects incredibly deeply. And one thing you'll see going forward is that I really appreciate a fight scene. Some are really creative and unique, unlike the fights in this season of Avatar. That is, all except for one. I need to make this one clear. Sokka vs Swordman person whose name I can only remember as Pendejo is absolutely glorious. There are some other fights that have a lot going for them, but I think this one is specifically good for being both relevant and well choreographed / animated. The use of space, the characters, the way they move while fighting, the way they think, it's all very good. So I'm gonna go through the notable fights and say what I think of them so you understand where I'm coming from and can get the biggest complaints out of the way. Avatar Roku vs Volcano. Pretty cool, I like his dragon and stuff, but it ultimately works as an expositional fight. There's Firebender Kids vs Guards. We see some of it, but it's ultimately a simple fight. Boom Boom Man vs Team Avatar. It's just running away. After Katara using her sweat in an extremely smart way, this comes off as utterly underwhelming. Ty Lee and Mei vs Azula, kinda. This fight does make Azula into a very tragic character, but it's also one of those fights that I really enjoy rewatching because of how good it can be. Coupled with Mei and Ty Lee's betrayal due to realizing that morals still remain, it makes for one of the best fights in the book. Sokka and Toph vs Blimps. I guess another great fight. I feel like it forgot a lot of bending stuff as well as seeming inconsequential. At least compared to fighting the Lord of Fire and fighting the Lord of Fire's daughter. The Day of the Black Sun. These two episodes have a few fights. Some of them are really enjoyable, like Zuko vs Fire Lord, though this is because Zuko is one of the best characters in written history. The ultimate downfall lays on how everything is pointless at the end, which is in a way the culmination of the last year of planning for the characters. It's ultimately disappointing, but not because of their loss. Their loss could have been incredibly good. The biggest problem I have is how a lot of developments with the characters, like Aang's insecurities, have to be repeated later on, but with almost no difference. Some characters benefited from it, aka only Zuko, and the other ones just end up repeating arcs, which is incredibly a shame. Katara and Zuko vs Azula. Everybody uses this fight to talk about how good this third season is, as if it were the magnum opus of Avatar. It's not. I actually believe it's one of the worst fights in the entirety of the thing. A good fight will have the following elements: impact, the attack itself, the tools and skills being used; feedback, the imagery that shows how strong the impact was by the reaction of the characters and their movements; location, grab a thought of the space the characters are fighting it, what can they use in their surroundings; communication, the thoughts and ideals being shared, be it by dialogue or body language, how aggressive they are, what are their intentions; and finally, flow, there's blows being traded. It's not a one-side battle when only one of them is trying to hit the other. It's not just two people doing the exact same movement at the exact same time. This fight has no impacts, it's almost no one gets hit during it. The tools being used are simple: shoot a lot of fire and look at the pretty lights with the contrast. There's almost no feedback for the same reason. There's 2 or 3 times where the characters actually land a hit. One results in a trip and the other one on a tumble on the floor. The fight location is straight up a ring. The only actual use of the area is when Katara hides behind a pillar after Azula plays dirty. There is almost no flow since they're just firebend normal fires at each other. I like that part where Korra drifts on the ice, but that's about it. The only part we do see here is communication, as Azula seems desperate while Zuko seems calm. There are things being said and there's changes being done on the characters. This is how you make the communication part, not so much the other things. So what I'm trying to say is that this fight basically comes down to a light show, and it's one of the worst parts of Avatar: The Last Airbender to me. That being said, I need to stress again, the communication the characters are having, it's incredibly good. Aang vs Fire Lord. Who would have guessed Aang could just Avatar state and break his shit? A certainly stunning conclusion to the show, although it follows the light show problem a little, being more lights and smoke than flow or tone. Well, that's alright, all fine and dandy, it's just one aspect. There's more stuff I personally don't enjoy as well. I started this briefly before, but they really tripped over the later half of the show with the characters, beating arcs and whatnot. And close to that is my greatest problem with this season, the reason why I dislike it enough to put it below what's usually considered the worst. I started to dislike the characters. I don't know why, Aang suddenly lost personality and it felt like he's got 100% serious with no resemblance to Aang. He didn't feel useful, angry or worried, he just seemed serious and monk. Kind of like they wanted to set him off on the path of the airbender, but his whole dilemma over killing the Fire Lord or not has already failed that purpose. So ultimately, he just seems distant. Even worse is Katara. She's just constantly bitching to anyone. She bitches to Sokka, she bitches to the Fire Nation, she bitches to Toph, she bitches to Zuko, she bitches to Aang. There's not a single person she doesn't bitch to, probably. Shut the fuck up and go back to what you were before you decided that you turned into a little Miss Bitchy. The only part where her bitchiness isn't the worst thing in the world is when she bloodbends. Way to go. And do not get me started on these two. Everyone makes a piss at Korra and Asami being forced while Katara and Aang just fall into the same patterns for over half of the season, pretty much not talking to each other and showing minimum signs of friendship. Actually, no, minimum signs of a relationship. But sure, it just blossomed at the will of the protagonist's love interest pick when they began the series. Azula and her mom have more chemistry and respect than them. I also gotta mention the theater episode, that is better fun indeed, but I'm not sure that it's ideal to slap it right before the final arc. The music too. I like the grand orchestra, but god did it get annoying after playing in the background non-stop for practically an hour 30 that you'll probably binge watch as the finale. Finally, I do think this season doesn't feel as wonderful as the past two. The environments and cities look bland and the characters almost appear to not have fun at times. I wouldn't mind if they wanted to make it more serious, but being serious with barely any nuance other than the occasional comic relief was never the way of The Last Airbender. They only became serious for fight scenes and book finales, which gave everything else the feeling of downtime even if the characters were going through Death Valley. Actually, once, literally. I will give props to the bloodbending episode as well as Zuko's character arc, which was executed almost to perfection. It single-handedly made me doubt if my positioning for this entire marathon list was off. In a way, it's more accurate to say that my low placement of this season is mostly due to being a fairly weak ending to the series for me. Whether this talks about how good the rest is or how shit my opinions are is up to you.